The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
How real is the risk that the U.S. dollar gets removed as the world's reserve currency in the coming years, and what can we do to prepare for it if that occurs? Welcome to Global Currency Watch with your host, Stephen Eyre. Contrary to popular opinion, the world's sovereign debt crisis is not going to go away. It'll be with us for many years, and we will see country after country succumb to its scrutiny. It's time to focus upon the news and events of the world through the lens of this reality. Now, here's the host of Global Currency Watch, Stephen Eyre.
Good morning and welcome to the show. We have a very special show for you today, and we're going to jump right in here. Today we have GERALD CELENTE joining us. GERALD is the founder of Trends Research Institute in 1980. He is a pioneer trend strategist. He is the author of national best-selling books by the name of Trend 2000 and Trend Tracking, along with being editor and publisher of this internationally circulated Trends Journal, which, by the way, is at www.trendsjournal.com. He predicted the stock market crash in 1987, the breakup of the Soviet Union, the top of the dot-com bubble and crash, the real estate bubble and crash, the Iraq War, and many, many other things. And what is Mr. Celente forecasting right now? Well, let's ask him. Mr. Celente, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What am I forecasting now? Happy days are here again. Vote for me. It's the presidential reality show.
Oh gosh, it's you designate quite a bit of discussion in the Trends Journal to politics, to war. The premise for this show is that the U.S. dollar will lose its world reserve currency in the years ahead, its status of being that in the years ahead. And I know that you believe that. Well, let me read an excerpt from the Trends Journal. I like to start out with a quote anyway. So you say the U.S. and Europe are locked in a debt-burdened downtrend, one that they cannot escape by simply endlessly printing more money. Why don't you expand on that for us and give us your overall general overview of the global economy right here?
Well, we're at a critical stage right now, particularly with the Eurozone. There's no way that the Greek problem that everyone's talking about, let's remember that's only 2% of the Eurozone's GDP. Whether or not they stay in the Union, it's more for show than for fact of how it's going to affect the whole Eurozone. But the big problems are, again, in Spain, with they well over $1 trillion in debt, and then Italy about $2.5 trillion with a GDP to debt ratio, just deficit ratio, yearly deficit ratio of about 120 to 1. And there's no way they're going to get out of it. So what they're going to do, as we believe it, they're going to come up with another scheme. Now let's make this really clear. First of all, the whole bailout project is against the Maastricht Agreement and the European Monetary Union Charter. So they make up the rules that they want to make up. So too is the Euro bond. That's against it's against the treaties. It's a violation. But they'll do what they want to do anyway. And the new scheme they're going to come up with, they're going to try to keep this thing going for about. They're talking about paying off the debt, the bonds, so 25-year bonds. So they're going to keep doing what they can to keep the Ponzi scheme going. And the same thing in the United States. Now we're talking about more QE3. And also today, what did China do? China lowered their interest rates. What did Australia do earlier this week? They lowered their interest rates. Yep. Brazil lowering their interest rates. India lowering their interest rates. What do lower interest rates mean? Flooding the markets with cheap money. This is a global crisis. It's not restricted to the United States. It's going to be restricted, I believe, to most of the currencies until they come up with making a new reserve currency, which actually the head of the World Bank talked about two years ago, of which gold is a part of the reserve currency. So until there's something of value in it, the whole game is ready to collapse. It's the digital money not worth the paper it's not printed on. So that's the way we look at it. There's no way of getting out of the United States debt crisis. What are we, 16 trillion in the hole and counting all the time? How are they going to pay it off? They're not going to be able to pay it off. They're going to devalue the currencies, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, so you have this rolling crisis, this rolling sovereign debt crisis jumping from one country to the next, and it only ends with, I guess, with the U.S. succumbing at some point down the road, right?
That would be the rational way of looking at it. But let's remember who we're dealing with here. We're dealing with sociopaths and psychopaths. If you follow the trajectory, the timeline, history is repeating itself, but only differently. You had the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, the Panic of '08, the Great Depression. There's a depression going on. There's a depression in Greece, a depression in Spain, a depression in Portugal, a depression in Ireland, a depression in Lithuania, depression in Hungary. There's depressions around the world. The United States, we're in a recession/depression. A lot of people are in depression in this country. Then what follows it? Currency wars. We just talked about lowering interest rates, the currency wars that are going on now. Trade wars. Oh, they're heating up already, aren't they? Follow the timeline. Crash of '29, Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, world war. And that's what they're doing now. Panic of '08, Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, world war. There's a world war going on. And that people aren't adding it up. Look what's going on around the world. Yemen, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Syria, Greeks, riots in the streets virtually every day. Egypt, Tunisia, Spain, Portugal, Ireland. Add them up. It's class warfare. That's all this is. It's class warfare and then the military-industrial complex warfare. It's a war going on. And this is what happens when systems break down. But what they do is they put different labels on it. Oh, those Yemens over there, they're, I know, they're there's bases there for Al-Qaeda, and we're going to get them. No. They're trying to overthrow the dictatorship of Saudi Arabia over there, their neighbors, and the whole thing is destabilizing. Hey, don't call Saudi Arabia a dictatorship. That's a king. Kings are good. Mullahs are bad, little girls and boys. And how about over there in Bahrain? Hey, don't say anything bad about the Emir over there. Yeah, they're killing people every day, but I'll tell you who them are. Those are those Shia Iranians that are upsetting this thing. Hey, it couldn't be because you got the Fifth Fleet Station there. And you keep going around. The whole thing is collapsing. Read today's headlines.
It is very scary. It is. I mean, I agree with you. When you look around, it's hard not to be overwhelmed by everything that's occurring. So, in regard to the Middle East and wars, the presidential election is coming up. The runoff here in a week and a half. What do you think is going to be the impact of Egypt? You know, the treaty in Egypt with Israel has really held the Middle East together for a long time. How do you see this impacting that?
That's not going to be much of that. It's going to be more of a breakdown of the entire society's revolutions continuing. You know, one of the chief writers of the Trends Journal, John Anthony West, he's renowned for his, we've been working together since 1983, but his real work also is, he's the guy that's proven that the Sphinx is 10,000 years older than currently dated because of the water damage. It's geological proof that there's water damage at the Sphinx, so it has to predate the Sahara. He was there during the entire, he landed there just by coincidence in Egypt 2 days before the revolution began, was there throughout the entire time. I had two guys there from the Trends Journal. What people don't realize, this wasn't this baloney about an Arab Spring, a pro-democracy movement. It has nothing to do with that. You have people living on $10 a day. You have loads of young people with university degrees that can't get jobs. Corruption at the top and no opportunity in the future. It's the same thing everywhere. So what is it going to have to do with Israel? Well, Israel, I mean, Israel's looking to solve their problems with their psychopaths wanting to bomb Iran. If anybody bombs Iran, it's the beginning of World War III. So it really has very little to do with the Egyptian peace treaty. It has more to do with the entire stabilization. Look, a week and a half ago in Morocco, about 30,000 people taking to the streets to overthrow that little king over there. It's one after another. The entire region is breaking down. The world is breaking down. This is class warfare. Hey, everybody, you want to get into a good entrepreneurial opportunity? How about guillotines? They're going to be in high demand. Look at this woman, Christine Lagarde, the head of the IMF, screaming at the Greeks, pay your taxes, pay your taxes. IMF, try the International Mafia Federation. Oh, Christine, you don't pay any taxes, do you? Hey, no, man, I'm a diplomat. We made up some rules for us diplomats. We don't have to pay taxes. Screw you. Only you pay, little people.
Wow, okay. That's,
you get it? That's what's going on.
Wow.
And the people are angry. And guess what?
Yeah.
So am I. And people say, well, you shouldn't be angry. Listen, the only time that Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, becomes violent, not angry, violent, is when he picks up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. Money changers, loan sharks, bankers, it's all the same.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. In regard to, some frustration and anger that you have, I watched an interview that you gave on MF Global, the bankruptcy of MF Global last October. Can you give us an update on your feelings on how that evolved, what that's going to translate into the banking system here, and just update us on that status based on.
Well, first of all, there's no charges have been filed against John Corzine, no criminal charges. I can't find $1.6 billion. You're $2 short on your taxes, they're going to be after you. Don't pay your house, your property taxes for a couple of years, they'll take your house. You can't find $1.6 billion. No, sloppy bookkeeping. Sloppy bookkeeping? Who you kidding? Former governor and senator of New Jersey, former head of Goldman Sachs, sloppy bookkeeping. Hey, leave me alone. Don't you know who I am? I'm John Corzine. Don't you know my buddies? I bundled more money for Obama for his re-election than just about anybody else. Get the hell out of here. No charges for you. Only charges for the little people. The word justice is being spelled wrong. It's Justus, just us. Did you see one head on Wall Street roll? Not one.
No.
So what's Corzine? They stole the money. We're not getting it back, and now I got about 70% back, and they're talking about maybe 6 years if you see any of the rest of it. And no criminal charges. Maybe civil charges. Big deal.
Right. Yeah,
So
and how that translates
to everything else.
Right. Unbelievable.
It's
first
not
of all,
unbelievable. That's what happens when you have the merger of state and corporate powers. It's called fascism. It's very, very believable in a fascist state.
So in your Trends Journal this month, you talked about the fact that, in your opinion, without the public really noticing, I quote, or caring enough to notice, Obama's 2012 had become Orwell's 1984. You talk about the NDAA and the NDRP, which we've covered on this show as well. Give us your take on that real quick here.
Well, you covered it. I mean, you know what it is. I mean, they could arrest a guy like me or you or anybody out there that they want to call a belligerent of the state. No trial, no jury, no charges, no judge, no lawyer, no writ of habeas corpus. Jack, you're dead. The military comes and takes you away. Hey, there's a little trouble over here in Kingston, New York. Get out the military. They'll take over police duties. They repealed the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, where the military wasn't supposed to take over police duties. That's repealed. And you mentioned the executive order where El Presidente of los Estados Unidos, I say that because he's turned into a banana republic, could call martial law anytime he feels like it, over a potential threat. Oh, you remember those potential threats? You know, red, orange, green alerts, whatever. You know, so hey, it's potential. So we take over the banks, the businesses, the manufacturing, the farming. That's what's going on. And hey, how about this one? How about the friend of the court? All you liberal wimpocrats out there, you know that Supreme Court ruling where now if you get arrested and they throw you in jail, you drank too much, bend over, spread your legs, take your clothes off. Strip search time. That's right. The Obama administration was a friend of the court. Isn't that a nice friendly gesture? Look, Hitler would have been proud of what Obama and Bush and the rest of these people have done to this country. It's right there. I'm not making this stuff up.
Yeah. And you're not, you don't take sides either.
No, I'm a political atheist. I was just there before I was on your show. I was on this show with Curtis Sliwa out of New York. And I began running political campaigns in Westchester County back at a graduate school in the 70s. I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. Worst job I've had in my life, to watch grown men grovel all day long to suck their way up to the top. And I've been one of our chief writers in the Trends Journals, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the former Assistant Treasury Secretary of the United States. Now, we're guys that know what it looks like, and it's a criminal operation. I'm not going to vote in this election. Why should I vote for the Gambinos or the Bananas? Or the Republicans or the Democrats? Same thing. It's a criminal operation, and I don't want to be an accessory to the crime.
Yeah, boy, it's choosing between bad and worse. That's for sure. No doubt. We have a couple minutes left here. First of all, I want to just point out again that if you'd like to subscribe to Mr. Celente's newsletter, that can be done at trendsjournal.com. Mr. Celente, do you have anything that you would like to share with us before you leave?
A couple of things. Number one, the summer's here. Rip up those lawns that you're growing green grass on that you can't smoke or eat, and plant food in there, and start doing something beneficial with your lawns. And stop buying corporate crap. Break the chains.
Great advice.
Olive Garden's not Italian food. I'm Italian, So support your local people. Go to the farmers markets this year. Don't buy a thing that you don't need, and